These two heat maps show exactly why Southampton were able to cause Antonio Conte to literally melt down. The Premier League continues to give us some serious juice despite the partial fixture list, and it's brilliant to see. You always can rely on the Barclays. There was complete chaos across the fixtures this week, and we're going to dig right into it and see what the chaos means for your club. And even if it isn't your club, that could affect your club. If you're new to the channel, we are trying to get ourselves to 250,000 subscribers. It would be amazing to get there. We need every single person to hit that subscribe button to get us there. So if you get value from this video by the end of it, do us a favor and hit that button for me. Cheers. So you will have already seen, hopefully on my channel, my problem with Antonio Conte. In that, I get into the political side of it, but let's talk about on the pitch, because he has some valid reasons for the critique, if not the style of it. That's for that video. In this video, we're going to talk about the tactics of Southampton 3, Tottenham 3. The XG was 2.51 to 2.27. Bit of a barnstorming game from that point of view. So from a baseline level, talking about football, remember that? Let's go into Conte's comments and why he's right to criticise the team, because the players have let him down hugely this weekend. The anger he's displaying, is it misguided? Again, that's for that other video. We'll talk about that there. But there are elements of him being correct when he's talking about the players letting him down, because they have let him down, but should he be allowing them to let him down? The screenshot. Let's talk about the screenshot, because this screenshot from Southampton's first goal, this was as important a moment in the match as could be, because it gave Southampton hope, and it also showed some of the frailties in Spurs' defence that could be exploited. The problem here is a lack of pressure on the ball as well as ball watching. Longley has no idea whether he needs to step up or he needs to go with his runner, whilst the other Tottenham defenders have already dropped off. Perisic is also completely napping in this one, which allows Walcott to get the run on him. So take a look at Højbjerg here, circled in this screenshot, and tell me why he's there. And this isn't the first time in the fallout where we've highlighted a similar problem. I think we did it last week, if not 2 weeks ago. This is a screenshot from the build-up to the Wolves goal. There are three big problems here. So first of all, it's that Skip is not applying enough pressure once he has engaged Moutinho. The second is because Skip has stepped up, it's broken the shield of the parallel double pivot, meaning it becomes really easy to play through. The third problem is the lack of awareness from Højbjerg, which is, again, unlike him. Having those two midfielders, it's just a huge issue for Spurs, as they often get bypassed and then look extremely light in midfield. Question for Tottenham fans, is that on Conte or is it on the players? Let me know. The heat maps and stats of James Ward-Prowse and Lavia offer a lot of insight here. We've already established that Spurs' big problem is the midfield being incohesive and making it sort of easy for the opposition to play through them. But if you look at James Ward-Prowse and Lavia's heat maps, they were allowed to pick up the ball all over the pitch and also close to the final third, and they did damage between them. James Ward-Prowse made a total of six key passes, whilst Lavia also made 3. So, you know, those two midfielders for the team that's bottom of the league against a team that's in the Champions League places had 9 key passes between them. Between them, they also had 172 touches, while Skip and Højbjerg only had a total of 141 between the two of them. Their heat maps are also the complete opposite of Southampton midfielders' heat maps. This shows a negativity and a lack of confidence from Spurs' midfield. Conte said in his interview that the problem was deeper than a tactical issue, but surely this has to be a wake-up call that Spurs' fit midfielders aren't good enough to play in an open double pivot like this. So what next for Spurs? Do they just give Conte the boot and get it done with? Daniel Levy doesn't strike me like the type of guy who to do it with the club in fourth, but at this point, Conte is publicly going against the club and the players, so does he have to go? Let me know what you think, and make sure you check out my problem with Antonio Conte, because I think this is deeper than just a tactical outburst. Chelsea 2, Everton 2, 2.37 to 1.27 for Everton. This was very much Potter versus the Anti-Potter. Volderdor Deitch. Voldeshawn. With two opposing styles clashing, this was always going to be a fascinating tactical battle as to how Chelsea dealt with Everton's sort of rigid, tight approach. The average position maps instantly give us the impression of how both teams set up. Chelsea looked to create a sort of 5 in attack, whilst Everton looked to keep their lines nice and congested and tight like they do, defending with that V, as we've spoken about on the channel numerous times. An interesting tactical aspect of Everton's approach was the use of Onana and Doucouré to engage Chelsea's double pivot. Doucouré and Onana looked to receive the ball in advanced areas of the pitch when they broke, and this meant that they often picked up the ball in areas that had space due to Chelsea's wing-backs being further forward. So the goal here was to overload the wide centre-backs of Chelsea and look to exploit them 2v1 to get the wide players on the ball as much as possible. We also need to talk about Ellis Sims, who came on to score the winner. A better use of him, in my opinion. He's only played 114 minutes in the league since returning to Everton in January. And of course, a big part of that was that game at Anfield where he was struggling big time, wasn't he? But now he took his chance there, didn't he? And he could be absolutely massive for Everton moving forward. And that's why he got that start in that game against Anfield. The goal's an interesting one. A question for Chelsea fans and Everton fans. Either this is like brilliant physical play and that burst of pace from Ellis Sims, or Koulibaly's defensively got his balance completely wrong, or he's just a bit washed. What is the answer? Probably somewhere in between all three, but I'm intrigued to know how you feel about it, because that was way too easy, or it looked way too easy. So either Ellis Sims is unbelievable or Koulibaly's struggling a little bit. On to Chelsea, though. There's a lot to be positive from this performance. Chelsea, for the most part, played well and had a clear tactical plan here, and they wanted to utilise Enzo Fernandez, who is one hell of a player. He was absolutely brilliant throughout this game, throughout the whole 90 minutes. His stats from this match are excellent. 86 touches, 2 key passes, 65 accurate passes, 10 of his 13 long balls were completed. That's madness. 5 tackles as well. Really complete, both defensively and offensively. And I want to focus on the long balls from him, because I think that's why he's so great and why he's so useful for this team that now has these wingers and is going to want to make the pitch nice and big to then create those spaces in between. And he has a real connection with João Felix in particular. You know, if you think of the build-up for that goal, this is a screenshot from it, from the build-up to that João Felix goal. And with Everton narrow and out of position, that's what they're always going to look to do. It made it difficult for Chelsea to play sort of vertical passes through. And this is where Enzo Fernandez's passing range came in handy, because he was able to switch the play with accuracy numerous times. Guys, this is my kind of player. The guy kind of sits there and pops it about. He's got a little bit more than that about him. He's got a bit of size to him. He's got ability to drive with the ball as well. But it's that passing range that in particular made a massive difference against a narrow team. And this allowed them to play Chilwell pretty much as a winger, as much as a wing-back in its advanced position. That created the space for João Felix's goal. And this is a huge weapon going forward for Chelsea. And it could be useful in counter-attacking scenarios as well as when they're trying to break down opposition defences with low blocks. Some players are Rolls Royces, and Enzo is a Ferrari. Wolves 2, Leeds United 4, or after you've been on a stag do in Dortmund, it's Wolves 2, Leeds Viren. Sorry, it's just kind of on my mind a lot. The XG is 2.78 to Wolves, which is pretty juicy for Wolves, really. Don't normally see that from them. 1.68 for Leeds, and probably the craziest game of the entire weekend took place at Molineux on Saturday. Leeds absolutely, in every sense of the phrase, did a job on Wolves and sucker punched them into oblivion. Leeds fans, you're getting annoyed, I know you are, but Leeds had 4 shots on target in the match and scored all of them. That is not the Leeds we know. And, long may it continue if you're a Leeds United fan, because it means you're going to win games, right? Meanwhile, Wolves racked up a total of 23 shots, with 8 of them on target, but only managed 2 goals in the game. Starting off with Leeds, I think what they did do well here is that they took it back to basics and they maximised every opportunity that they were given. The biggest example of this is Luke Ayling's goal. And I think overall the team getting bodies in the box is something that I know, certainly for that Harrison goal as well. Ayling is at the back post for that one. They are trying to get bodies in the box to give themselves a better chance. Back to Luke Ayling's goal. His movement and the nature of it was clearly something from the training ground, and it worked excellently. Fine margins like this is what Javi Gracia is about, and it's resulting in the side being very effective. And that's not a word that we've ever used, I think, for Leeds over the last 18 months. And it just allows them to get every last drop out of the quality of those players. You're getting your nice little Leeds bounce, but I think he's definitely making the team so much more effective. 2 players I want to highlight in particular from Leeds are Jack Harrison and Willy Gnonto. I think that their roles have gone a bit under the radar and are actually critically important to this side now. Under previous managers, Jack Harrison has played almost exclusively on the left-hand side, but Gnonto's preferred side is also on the left. So Javi Gracia has done brilliantly in finding a way to get them both in the side, and they're executing the tactical instructions really, really well. The wingers in this side have two key things that they need to do, two key instructions. Firstly, they need to come back on defence and contribute to the shape. But secondly, they are actually given freedom when it comes to their attacking contribution. And that freedom of movement gets the best out of them in the final third. Gnonto assisted Harrison for the first, and the goal comes from that freedom that they're given. Now for Wolves, now I hear you Wolves fans, you are hard done by from the ref in this one, and yes, it was a penalty, but you can't be conceding 4 goals and expect to get a point, really, unless it's, who's it, Swindon, didn't they drew Swindon-Rochdale? Unless you're either Swindon or a Rochdale fan, you can't expect to get a point when conceding 4 goals. Switching off at crucial times costs Wolves, and if that happens, you are going to concede, and then you're going to lose points. Pretty simple, right? You shouldn't be scoring 2 goals at home and not coming away with at least a point, and especially in what was a 6-pointer. Another big problem from this match was that Johnny Otto, who scored possibly the goal of the season in this one, got sent off, and so did Mateus Nunes, despite Nunes not actually playing any minutes. So bad week for those who own him on FPL, as he picked up a -3 without even setting foot on the pitch, which is pretty impressive. But if you had Nunes in your team, then you probably deserve that. Arsenal 4, Crystal Palace 1, 1.57 to 0.7. Can we all have a nice big sigh and a sorry, Finn, for my editor, Finn, who is a Crystal Palace fan. He's fighting hard right now. Hang in there, Finn. I see you. It's going to be okay. Maybe. But hang in there. You haven't got a choice. It's what we do. Another disappointing result for them. And, of course, Vieira went as well. This game could have gone very different with what happened during the week, with Arsenal getting dumped out of the Europa League and Palace possibly about to undergo a no-manager bounce. It could have been a sticky afternoon for Arteta's side, but this wasn't the case, and the reason for this is that Arsenal were ruthless. Arsenal were extremely snappy and energetic in how they won the ball back in turnovers and had a positivity to their game, which meant that they didn't give Palace a moment's rest. The average positions are what we've come to expect from Arsenal, with the 4-3-3 being used, but I want to highlight the groups of players on the left and on the right, because what we are seeing here is the Arsenal team operating as sort of groups of mini teams in different areas of the pitch, and it's fascinating to see. When you watch them, you get an understanding of how these groups interact with each other and how they are all aware of what they do in certain scenarios. It would be so fascinating to see how Arteta handles his training sessions, to see how he achieves this. Apart from this, I want to talk about Rob Holding. Coming into the team off the back of Saliba's injury could have added a lot of pressure for Holding, but I thought that he was exceptional against Palace. Saliba's passing range is one of the most important tools that Arsenal have, so against Palace, Holding made 5 out of his 5 long balls and proved that he's actually pretty good at spraying those passes, even when under pressure. Holding also won 4 out of 5 ground duels, as well as 7 out of 10 aerial duels, and all in all was very, very good. A really strong performance for a fringe player coming in, and fringe players stepping up at important times. It's a sign of champions for those sweet, sweet Gunners. For Palace, I think they should take this result with a massive pinch of salt. For starters, they had Tompkins in for Anderson. Lokonga was unavailable against his parent club. And they had 19-year-old Joe Whitworth in goal due to Guaita and Johnston both being injured. That's not me having a go at Whitworth, but you want one of those two. Guaita's been a wonderful servant. Johnston's a good goalkeeper, right? So it was always going to be a big ask considering the team that they were able to put out. The important thing for Palace has to be their new manager. There are murmurings of Will Still. That could be a superb appointment. He is on the crest of a wave right now, if they're able to sort it. Hodgson is also the other talking point, but who do you want, Palace fans? I put out on Twitter, Bielsa, Hasenhüttl, Benitez, some of the names looking around, Corberán, I think, again. Who out of these guys would you want to see? Let me know in the comments down below. Who would you like to be the next manager to sort of guide you to safety? Is there any merit in having someone like Roy Hodgson who knows the club? Now, often, let me tell you a little story. Some people seem to think I'm a jinx. I'm not. I talk about teams when they're doing well. I'm a good guy, trying to enjoy those moments with you, right? Now, I often don't talk about Aston Villa because one of our crucial members is our queen, Catherine. Now, Catherine is a big Aston Villa fan, and she doesn't want me talking about Aston Villa because every time I do a video saying they're great again, they become crap again. Now, that can't be on me every single time, and I've waited and waited and waited, but you beat Bournemouth 3-0. It was a great performance, and you need to be discussed. And other people are getting frustrated, Catherine, so let's just move on with this. There is no hoodoo with Allcott. I'm slightly concerned about the next game, but do you want me to talk about your team or not? Aston Villa 3, Bournemouth 0. XG 3.66 to 1.36, which is interesting because when looking at the scoreline and the accompanying XG, I think many will just think it was Bournemouth who were bad, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think Villa were excellent and deserved their 3-0 through the persistence of their approach and how they attacked in waves throughout the match. The momentum bar, we haven't seen it in this episode, so here it is. It displays this really well. Villa looked to have control in this game for about 90% of it and looked as if it was them that were dictating the ebb and flow of the game. This team is starting to come together brilliantly and it looks to be achieving a good understanding of the tactics. Ollie Watkins' movement was once again impressive and it caused Bournemouth problems when their defenders were forced to backpedal. But I think the star of the show was Douglas Luiz. I know Arsenal were interested in him in the summer and Luiz has since gone on to sign a new contract, but I think it's only a matter of time before a top 6 club comes at the very least sniffing around again. Because if this performance is anything to go by, he's of that level, you know. He, of course, scored a goal early on, but it was his other stats that I think took much more of my interest in how much of a complete midfield performance that he provided. So his stats in this game against Bournemouth: 85% pass completion, 3 key passes, 5 out of 5 dribble attempts for a central midfielder. 9 out of his 13 ground duels were won. Truly a monster performance from him. But the most important part of this match was David Brooks making his long-awaited return to football after 500 days out, having undergone cancer treatment, which is just so great to see. And now back in football, he'll no doubt play a huge part in Bournemouth's survival bid in the Premier League this year and will definitely be a great player to have either off the bench or in the starting 11 because the guy is total quality. And it was great for football, but more importantly for him to be back doing what he's brilliant at. So, David, congratulations, mate. So good to see you back on the pitch. Sound the klaxon. Yep, that's right. It's the Brentford lost in XG klaxon. Doesn't happen very often, but Brentford with a 1-1 draw still got out of it. Bloody Brentford, aren't they? They're very clever, aren't they? But the XG 0.64 to 1.35 for Leicester, who generally are pretty strong when it comes to creating chances. Brentford looked pretty good in the first half of this one and piled the pressure on during the first half, which did pay off with an excellently worked goal. But the big problem was that they sort of faded as the match went on, and that allowed Leicester to get back into the game as they put an end to that 5-match losing streak, which was absolutely crucial. Is this the early signs of a greater problem beginning to appear at Brentford? Time will tell. Will it be one where Brentford sort of just take their foot off the gas because they are absolutely fine and have completely, gone past all expectations this year? Time will tell. I don't think so because I just think they're so efficient, well drilled. And I don't think Thomas Frank would allow it either because they've got a great opportunity to do something special this year. But despite fading in the second half and perhaps being a little bit tired, I don't think it's a pattern beginning to unfold. We will see. The reason for believing this is that they did the reverse in the midweek against Southampton, improved as the game went on. Brentford are currently on 42 points, sitting in 8th place, level on points with both Brighton and Liverpool. So I think they will have that energy to keep going. The most important thing for them is keeping Ivan Toney fit, as he once again demonstrated his importance in midweek against Southampton. For Leicester, this was an important point. Despite them now sitting in 17th position, with sides around them also picking up points, this was an important point because it sort of put the brakes on the free fall, which has seen them thrusted back into that relegation battle. The question is, has this point papered over the cracks, or it's still 6 matches without a win for Brendan Rodgers? When are they going to truly turn the corner? And because they need to quickly. It is so tight down there. And how many more games has Brendan Rodgers got as well if this continues? I think they're going to probably stick with him to the end, but we often see real panics right at the end, and you never know, do you? I think the next 3 games are absolutely crucial for them. Away from this, James Maddison was once again crucial. He always is. Not only did he provide the assist for Harvey Barnes, but he played with confidence throughout the game, and that's something that Leicester are very short of. He's also captaining the side now, and is doing his best to lead them away from the drop. If Leicester do go down, it certainly isn't on him, as he's having an excellent season for them this year. What on earth he's just done there? I was on a stag do over the weekend, and sort of through one eye as I'm sort of half cut, I'm watching this Antonio Conte press conference, and I was in shock watching it.